The Game Boy is arguably one of the most recognizable pieces of tech in recent history. Throughout the Game Boy's lifespan, there have been many models. The Game Boy has undergone a total of 10 significant revisions. Even experienced gamers might have missed some lesser-known models such as the Game Boy Light. But what are the best Game Boy models? In this video, we will be diving into the Game Boy's incredibly rich history and going through all of the major revisions of the Game Boy. We'll talk about the features of these models and many fun facts. Additionally, we will also be giving a quick buyer's guide for those who wish to buy these consoles, and we'll tell you where you can snag all those rare Game Boy variants. Number 1. Classic Game Boy DMG-01. The Classic Game Boy DMG-01, also known as the Game Boy Classic, was the first model in the Game Boy family, released in 1989. Created by Gunpei Yokoi and Nintendo Research and Development 1, known for the Game & Watch series and NES games, this handheld console aimed to bring popular NES titles like Super Mario and The Legend of Zelda on the go. It featured interchangeable cartridges and advanced graphics compared to the Game & Watch series. Despite its inferior graphics and lack of a backlit screen, it sold 118 million units, outperforming competitors like the Sega Game Gear. Its success was driven by popular games and Yokoi's philosophy of using older, reliable hardware to keep production costs low. The Game Boy, produced until 2003, laid the foundation for future portable consoles and was succeeded by the Game Boy Pocket in 1996. Number 2. Game Boy DMG-01. Play it loud. In the early days of gaming, there were no clear rules on console lifespans or sales strategies. For the original Game Boy, Nintendo didn't upgrade the console for at least 7 years. In 1995, they refreshed it with the Game Boy DMG-01 Play It Loud series, which offered more color options while maintaining the same design. This series included deep black, gorgeous green, radiant red, vibrant yellow, high-tech transparent, traditional white, and cool blue. Notably, it marked Nintendo's entry into limited edition consoles, such as the Manchester United Red Game Boy DMG. His proved consumer interest in colored consoles and influenced future Game Boy models. Number 3. Game Boy Pocket. The first proper revision to the Game Boy DMG was the Game Boy Pocket, launched in 1996. The Game Boy Pocket was significantly smaller and lighter than the original Game Boy and featured better ergonomics. The Game Boy Pocket had full compatibility with DMG titles. The graphics of the games and the internals of the Game Boy Pocket were also pretty much the same. However, the most significant improvement that the Game Boy Pocket brought to the table was its new and improved screen. Unlike the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Pocket features a true black and white screen that eliminates a lot of the original DMG's ghosting issues. Additionally, the Game Boy Pocket now only required 2 AAA batteries instead of 4 AA batteries. In many ways, the Game Boy Pocket is very similar to a lot of modern-day Nintendo systems, such as the Nintendo DS Lite, new Nintendo 2-Deciskins XL, and Nintendo Switch Lite. Number 4. Game Boy Light. The Game Boy Light, a lesser-known model in the Game Boy family, was released exclusively in Japan in 1998. Similar in design to the Game Boy Pocket, its standout feature was a backlit display, which was a vast improvement over non-backlit screens, despite being dimmer than modern screens. It also required 2 AA batteries instead of 2 AAA batteries. However, the Game Boy Light never achieved global success and remained unknown in the West due to limited internet access. It was quickly overshadowed by the Game Boy Color, making it outdated within a year. In Japan, it remains valuable, especially limited editions like the Astro Boy and Osamu Tezuka models. Number 5. Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Color, released in 1998, was the true successor to the original Game Boy, featuring significant improvements. It had a fully colored screen, updated graphics, and was nearly 4 times more powerful than the Game Boy DMG and Pocket. It maintained backward compatibility with all original DMG games while offering exclusive titles like Pokémon Crystal and Pokémon Pinball. The contrast wheel was eliminated, and up to 12 color palettes could be selected for older games. It also introduced an infrared wireless link port, rarely used by developers. Available in colors like grape, teal, kiwi, berry, dandelion, and atomic purple, it was a massive success. Limited editions, such as the Pokémon Center versions and Hello Kitty Pink, have retained high value in the second-hand market. Number 6. Game Boy Advance AGB-01. After 3 years in the market, Nintendo introduced a new and different model to the Game Boy family in 2001, the Game Boy Advance. This successor to the Game Boy Color featured significantly better hardware and a new landscape form factor, similar to the modern Nintendo Switch. Its pitch was to bring the SNES experience on the go, a groundbreaking concept at the time. The Game Boy Advance became a massive hit with exclusive titles like Pokémon Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Mega Man Zero, Golden Sun, Metroid Zero Mission, and Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. However, it lacked a backlit or frontlit display, which led to redesigns. The Game Boy Advance AGB-01 is favored for its form factor, and enthusiasts often mod it for lit screens using original AGS 101 screens or aftermarket IPS screens. Number 7. Game Boy Advance SP. In 2003, Nintendo answered fan demands by redesigning the Game Boy Advance, releasing it as the Game Boy Advance SP. This new model featured a clamshell design similar to the Nintendo DS and an illuminated screen. The Game Boy Advance SP came in two models. AGS-001 released in 2003, the AGS-001 was the successor to the original Game Boy Advance AGB-01, featuring a front-lit screen. While offering a better gaming experience than its predecessor, the AGS-001 screen was dimmer and had more washed-out colors compared to backlit screens. Though less desired today, it performed well in the market, and was succeeded by the Nintendo DS in 2004. AGS-101 released around 2005 to 2006. The AGS-101 featured a brighter, more vibrant backlit screen. It is less known due to the popularity of the Nintendo DS at the time. Given its superior display, the AGS-101 has become a collector's item, often fetching higher prices. It was available in graphite black, pearl pink, and pearl blue, with limited editions like the Pikachu edition. Number 8. Game Boy Micro. The Game Boy Micro, the final revision of the Game Boy Advance and the last model in the Game Boy family, was released in 2005. This smaller, more pocketable device reimagined the original Game Boy Advance AGB-01 and featured a backlit display. Unveiled at E3 2005, it didn't appeal to fans due to its small screen and less comfortable form factor. Additionally, it lacked backward compatibility with older Game Boy games, despite using the same cartridge slot. Though not a bad console, featuring the best backlit screen with finer brightness adjustments and denser pixels for a sharper image, the Game Boy Micro had many compromises and was released too late in the Game Boy Advance's life cycle. It was discontinued in 2009. If you are looking for rare Game Boy consoles, then the best place is, without a doubt, Zen Market. Buy from stores like Yahoo Auctions, Rakuten, Mercari, and more, which are usually exclusive to Japanese market. However, with the help of Zen Market, you can shop from these stores with ease. Thanks for watching. If you are interested in Japanese content, subscribe to our channel.